So last month, crypto was the winner.
Yeah, the one everyone bragged about.
Yeah, this month it's getting crushed.
And not just a little bit crushed, like, did I break something crushed?
So let's find out why. Hey, welcome back to the Buy Your Kids a House podcast series. Again, I'm Matt, this is Andrew. And this is our chapter deep dive section where basically we go into the further concepts within the book and our plan is and what our financial goals and everything are. And with that, we set up a few months ago 6 different investment strategies, and we're trying to track them in real time, seeing what actually affects the market and what actually works in today's investment strategies. And today we're going to do our monthly recap of what everything's looking like.
Yeah, and we're using the same amount, no changes, no rules, all of the same things so that we can get accurate data for this.
Yeah, so basically we're investing $1,000 a month into these 6 different strategies and then tracking their actual performance and actually seeing over the course of the next couple of years and everything which actually fit best for today's actual financial market. And we're seeing some really surprising results already.
Yeah, and one of the key things that we're doing is we're putting everything the same and we're not changing anything at all. We're leaving everything, and just because it looks good doesn't always mean it's going to end up being the best.
Yeah, speaking of looking good, so last month, crypto was definitely the one looking really good. And for anyone paying attention to the financial market right now, crypto just took a big nosedive.
Huge dive. And that's kind of where the danger starts. Yeah. So let's go ahead and look into the data and what we found out for ourselves.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and dive in. So I think first we need to start talking about kind of the elephant in the room for this month, because definitely that is crypto and what everything's going on with that at the moment. Now, I'll fully admit, as far as it goes with crypto, this is where I have my biggest, hesitancy and everything, because I still don't fully understand how and why crypto works in the sense of what actual product or what value it has, because of its decentralized and not having a tangible good or service. And to me, it just seems like the modern age version of what used to be the old pump and dump stocks back from the 90s of everyone put their money in, but if you're the first to take your money out, then you win. But if you're not, you're first to take the money out, then you lose. And so with that, right now we're seeing how much that volatility can actually make an impact. Like last month, I had friends of mine in my ear constantly, you buy crypto, XRP's up, XRP this and everything, going between Bitcoin and XRP and Doge and everything. And then now we see a month later, boom, it's down almost 40%. Yeah.
No, it really crashed. It's crazy. Like you were saying, that's the problem with crypto, though, is because if some of the people that are the majority holding of the coins, if they just dump, then everyone's left with just useless, I don't even know, digital currency that's useless. So like you just have numbers on your computer now and that's it. And it doesn't actually do anything for you. And that's where a lot of people get stuck, is it's high gains, but it is low drops for sure.
Yeah, and again, like people that thought last month, like as it was the big winner last month of our investment strategies. So a lot of people thought, like, as it's going up, now's the time for me to jump in and put money into it. Well, a month later, now you're down pretty darn big in that aspect. Now, some people might look at it as like, well, it's down, so that means it's actually at a discount. So now's the time maybe actually to buy into it, because even at the time of our chart, it was 70-some thousand for Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. Now it's already in the 60,000 level for Bitcoin. So maybe now's the time to get in while it's low. But is it low, or can it go lower, or can it completely shut down? I don't know. That's the problem I have with crypto in general.
No, exactly. And like the big ones like Ethereum and Bitcoin, you do see some consistency in it, but it's not enough. Like we were just, the way we were talking about it, I don't know, last year it was like 105,000. This year now we're at 60,000. That is a huge percentage difference in the amount it's worth now. And it could just keep tanking. We don't know. And that's the gamble with crypto. That's why you and I aren't huge fans of it, because it is a gamble more than just a stability, like in a consistency. But just to see it drop that much, even in a month, is crazy.
Again, to me, crypto in general just seems to have so much more of an emotional buy or emotional sell. It definitely has like a very panic-driven market. So once it starts selling, everyone starts selling, because at the end of the day, I don't feel people feel as tied to it. It's not as tangible as you would like a normal currency or a normal company or tangible item that you're into. Because yes, a company might come out with a bad earnings report, or maybe bad news of a recall in a product or something like that. But at the end of the day, you still probably believe that company can weather the storm and bounce back. But crypto in general has such a feast or famine panic buy to it that a lot of times if you see it, everyone just scurries real quick to sell, because no one wants to be the last one holding the bag of nothing. And you hear, maybe not, Bitcoin and Ethereum and, the big darling right now is XRP, but there's so many other coins, whether it was, Safe Moon or Doge or whatever,
Hmm.
that for the most part now are pretty much worthless because, everyone sold those off so quick. Some of them still exist, but a lot of them even taken off even the crypto markets, which is, you got to
Yeah.
be a really low value to be taken off those markets
Oh,
sometimes.
no, exactly. And I fell victim to the Doge one too when it was starting to become popular. Luckily, I bought in early and I got several coins for really cheap, but it is now worth 40% less than what I paid. And I don't ever see it going back up.
No,
At
no.
this point, it's a long haul game. Like I'm just like, I'm not getting my money back. So I might as well just leave it there. And if a miracle happens, okay, cool. If not, though, but see, that's where the gamble is.
Yeah.
I lost that money. I'm probably never going to get that money back. And that is the big issue I think I have personally with crypto is just the inconsistency, like I said before.
Well, so you stuck one word in there that really struck out to me, which to me, I hate when it comes to investing: gamble.
Mm-hmm.
So again, when you're investing, yes, there's risk. Yes, there's inherent of knowing we can't predict the future,
Right.
but it shouldn't be a full gamble.
No.
Like again, with that, like you want to have some knowledge and expertise of what you're going into is going to be a good purchase because it has good potential growth.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, we can't predict a bad quarterly report or something like that coming out, but at the end of the day that you believe that company can do or weather the storm, or you do like an ETF or mutual fund that has already pre-diversified a bunch of companies, so you have that little bit of already diversification in there.
Mm-hmm.
But gambling shouldn't be the word term when you're coming in investing. Now, granted, if you want to do a little bit on the side for fun, which is what we do in our mixed investment thing, we have 15% in there just to see what it does in there, because it has the big boomer bust and everything. But man, gambling, like investing in the me and gambling for your future, is not the route to go.
No, exactly. Gambling should be left for casinos. Like your table games, your slot machines, and those types with the shiny lights and the fun.
Yeah.
That's where gambling should be, not in what is going to build you wealth.
Absolutely. And again, you're paying for that experience knowing full well you're probably going to lose because, as they say, the house always wins.
Yep.
So whether it's sports betting or casino gambling or something along those lines, bingo, the lottery, whatever the case is, do it because it has the entertainment value in there. Don't do it with crypto.
No, exactly. And like what you were saying just before, like these companies that you invest in besides crypto, you can get the reports. You know who's on the board. You know who is leading it. You know all of these. Crypto is encrypted so much. You have none of that information. You don't know who the big players are, where they are, why they're using it, if they're not using it, if they dump it. You can't track any of that. And that is the point of crypto, but at the same time, it doesn't give you any stability to be able to be secure in your decision for investing in it.
Well, and I think, part of why crypto is taking a big dive right now, you kind of like hinted around at it right there, was that we don't really know who and why they're using it. And we're finding out a lot of the who and why they're using it are not very good people.
Nope.
For those, again, part of what makes crypto and everything take a big dive right now is the big news about Savannah Guthrie's mom being kidnapped.
Yeah.
A lot of it's also coming out with the Epstein files, that Epstein and them use crypto a lot because it was untraceable and anonymous, and no one was knowing who was doing what, so there wasn't a bookkeeping element that had to be known, so you didn't have to release who and what the money is from.
Correct.
And we're starting to realize that a lot of these, the people that it benefits are not for good activities.
They're not good people.
so again, if we're now wanting to eliminate that, that's part of what's making crypto finally take a nosedive, because people are realizing that these are used for nefarious activities, whether it's drug deals, other criminal activities, money laundering.
Yeah.
There's so many elements that like is not properly used for. And if people are saying like I'm done with it, I don't want to put my money into something that's being used for these terrible activities. And to me, that's a good thing that we're starting to move. That maybe the answer is creating more transparency on these and actually having a ledger of who and what is actually transpiring with these things. You can't set up an anonymous wallet to put Bitcoin into it and not know who's going to, and you can't withdraw it wherever you want to around the world.
Right.
Create these limitations maybe in there that maybe they'll help fix it in the long term. But for right now, I think that's part of what's really making this take a nosedive, is that we're starting to realize that a lot of illegal activities and everything are being done with this, and people are fed up with it, and I applaud that.
Yeah, and it's been used for that since the beginning too. I mean, an untraceable currency, that's what all of these people have wanted the entire time. And it's just crazy to me that it has spiked so much throughout the years. Like I never thought, like when Bitcoin was first starting out, it would ever turn into what it turned into. And that's great for everyone that has profited off of it. but maybe it's now time to take a step back from it and look at the big picture.
And again, like, and this is where I'm maybe old and naive in this sense, but again, I remember when Bitcoin first came out, and the concept was it was going to become a global currency. So if you travel around a lot, whether for fun or business or whatever, you didn't have to exchange your money back and forth because you can go one currency around the world to use independently of a nation's currency. And I thought that, to an extent, was a fun idea. Like, if I traveled to Europe, I wouldn't have to exchange it for the euro. If I went to Russia, I wouldn't have to exchange my money. If I went to wherever around the world, whatever country, I wouldn't have to worry about exchanging my money, possibly getting ripped off when I exchange my money, because sometimes they have hidden rates and fees and everything. And you can just walk up with your crypto wallet and purchase whatever good or service you want to in there. And I like that thought and concept, but that's never become really the fruition of what crypto has done. It's just become the investment landscape that has become of the speculative boom or bust gambling, and again a lot of the illegal activities and everything on there. So I think that crypto can be fixed? Absolutely. I think there's potential there, but a lot of steps need to be taking place on a global level to regulate and structure this, and to actually set up a truly long-term feasible aspect to this before I'm truly sold on what crypto is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I like that you touched on the controversy of it being regulated, because a lot of people out there that like it because it's not regulated. And so definitely, if you're one of those people, let us know. We like to see your opinion on it too, even if it's not our opinion. We really want to hear from that. Next, I think we're actually going to start talking about the strategies,
the other ones,
that we went into with all of the other ones as well, and look at more of the stats as well coming up. But crypto, I guess the best way to sum it up is it's just a gamble.
It's the roller coaster ride. Do you want to be a part of it or not?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But let's move on to the next section.
Absolutely. So now let's go ahead and go into a recap of what the 6 different strategies are beyond just the crypto one that we mentioned and everything already. But we're going to start with the kind of the winner so far, which to me is one of the more surprising winners. It currently is the dividends only one. Now, dividends only, as we mentioned before, and if you haven't seen or watched the previous videos, we have 10 different dividend stock companies that we're investing into. And what surprised me most about getting that 3% rate of return already is the fact that we weren't even in there when a dividend is being paid out. Now, for those who don't really know what dividends paid out, usually a lot of these companies on a quarterly basis, sometimes even a monthly basis, will pay out a portion of their profits to the shareholders as a dividend payment to it. Now, you can do with it whatever you want. You can take that money, put it in your account, use it to spend it, which is a lot of times what you do when you're in retirement. Or when you're in the growing period, you're going to take that money and just reinvest it right back into more of that stock, which will help increase that growth. But the fact that we got 3% and didn't even get a dividend payout yet, to me, really blows my mind.
Yeah, and it's hilarious because that's the one no one ever gets excited about. Everyone gets excited over the thrill of like the crypto and the other things like that. But the one that's the most consistent is the most boring.
Yeah.
What's that tell you about life? Consistency is sometimes boring, but the payout is always better.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, shocking to me, like, because we bought in January, and that was when a lot of these had their first month of a dividend paid out, but we weren't in there quite yet. But the fact it's already grown 3%.
Yeah.
And that's just going to show the potential of this and everything, especially as that stock grows, the percentage that they pay on that matches with it. Like, it really leaves the potential on there. We'll see over long term where that goes, and then when it build up enough and everything, you get enough dividends that's what you're ready to retire on. And that's one of the main areas that I want to test with this and the future concepts of with the buying a house and replacing the bills, replacing with dividend income is one of the main areas I'm looking at. But then that leads into probably the most stable of what we look at and everything, which is our main first option, which is just getting an ETF to go with the S&P 500. We're doing VOO. I'm not saying you have to go specifically with that one, but that's the one that we chose because I feel it has the lowest fees and it's easiest barrier of entry to get into. And that one did grow 1%, which again for a couple months and everything, that's not bad. That's usually that's that boring predictability that you want. I'm just surprised the dividends passed over that. So
yeah, the 3%, and if you're just jumping into learning about all of this stuff, 3% doesn't sound like a lot on paper, but then you look at the actual numbers of that 3% coming back, and you're like, wait a minute, that's a decent amount. Yeah. Like for what I invested, that okay. And then it continues to just grow typically. And there will be fluctuations within it. I mean, there's never not going to be because, life. But the consistency of it is what really solidifies being to me like the smart decision.
No, and then that's, as you mentioned to it, 1%, 3%, like these sound small and everything. Because a lot of times we look at it, and this is where the day trader versus the long-term growth mindset needs to change. Because a lot of times when you get trading in, I'm guilty of it too. You sit there and stare at your investment app, whatever it is, Robinhood, whatever you're using,
Right.
and you want to see that instant feedback because like you like seeing numbers go up and move around and do things. But like a day, a week, a month, a year, multiple years, these long-term things you got to really plan out for. And so if you think about it, 1% in a month might seem small, but if that continues to grow, that's 12% over a year.
Yeah.
3% over a month might seem small, but over a course of a year, that's 36%. And I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen with these, but that's the mindset you need to have of these slower long-term snowball effects. Because again, if you're looking at it from a day to day, you might be like, well, it didn't really do anything.
Right.
Why aren't you going up? Like, you want to poke it with a stick. Come on, move, do something, grow, and everything.
Right.
But no, you need to have that long-term mindset. This isn't a day trading mindset. You're not going to get rich overnight. This is something in the long term. You keep adding into it more and more as you can over time. You're going to water it and sprinkle it, love it. Come on, keep going. But having it where this is a long-term growth solution, not just that quick earnings of money. But yeah, so that was a VOO only. Then behind it was still kind of in that ETF range, everything where we did the mix of the two. Our two that we're doing is VOO and QQQ. So you have the S&P 500 fund, but then you have more of a technology focused fund. So putting those together. That's where like the still has some growth and everything, a little bit behind just VO on its own. But I think this also, as you'll see in the next one, the Magnificent Seven, some of the tech companies took a little bit of a hit, not huge hit, but like they didn't grow as much as what we overall thought was going to be. So
yeah, no, absolutely. And I like what you were saying. It's not, get out of the mentality of just the day trading. Because the day trading, that mentality is still like that gambling mentality, like you're still going into it for thrills more than trying to build a lasting generational wealth. And that's what we're more about. We're more about setting up not only kids, but their grandkids and generations to be able to, if everyone follows and continues with the same thing, everyone's going to be set up. And that's incredible. Like to be able to build a generational wealth over just instant gratification. And I like that a lot.
No, first off, there's too much information out there nowadays. You can find a good thing or a bad thing pretty much for every company out there in the same day. And if you're following these short-term trends, you're going to be just chasing an elephant that you're never going to be able to catch. Like it just one of those things out there. You may get lucky here, but then the other one you're going to lose on, and you're going back and forth, and it can get frustrating. It's exhausting, and there are people that dedicate their whole life to this just for even getting a fraction of that percentage, just a little bit better than what a simple 1% a month growth is. And unfortunately, a lot of times people think that they can do 1% a day or even 5% a day, and it's just unrealistic over long term. You might get lucky here and there,
right?
But that's going to follow right back up with a 10% loss or a 15% loss. And you're right back where you were, or even worse off where you were. And also, a lot of times when you want this little growth, you don't realize how much capital you need just to even get going with that. You see some of these day traders that are like, "Oh, look at me! I made $1,000 a day and everything." Well, they got to say they had $1 million to make that $1,000 on, or even $10 million to make that on. They leave that part out of the story,
right?
So you don't realize that really it's not that much actual growth. People are thinking they're going on there with $100 and turning into $1,000. That's not the case.
No, it's never going to be that. And like you said, the amount invested is definitely key, because you hear about all these people getting all of this money from their investments, but then you have to ask the question, well, what was the initial investment? And to me, it is better to just set it and forget about it. Yeah. I know in the past, like I've even had to delete Robinhood off my phone because I found myself checking it 5 or 6 times a day. And then you see the little spikes and downs, and like, because it's crazy to me that stocks and dividends and all of these things, they go up and down by the second.
Yeah.
So to look at that and then worry yourself, stress yourself out, and then be happy, and then have that crash again, and then that emotional roller coaster, it's just better to delete. Like, just set it, leave it, check it in 3 months, see where you're at.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like, yes, I don't want you to leave some money in something if there is major news that's a long-term change.
Yes.
But how often does that really come out?
Correct.
Again, you might have little bumps in the road, but again, as long as you don't feel that company is making a shift that's going to be total failure, don't worry about taking your money out of it at that point then. Like, again, we mentioned other episodes, you don't want to leave your money in a Blockbuster when a Netflix is on the rise. When you see somebody like a transition like that, yes, take your money out. But for the most part, these companies, especially your older blue chip companies and everything, like you believe in them for a reason.
Yeah.
Leave it in there if you're like, oh, they didn't hit their money report for the quarter. Like, so what?
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of push out there. There's talking of trying to even eliminate quarterly reports
Mm-hmm.
because that's too small of a window to get a true image into what the company's doing.
Yeah.
And there's talk of going semi-annually, even annually, just to be like, hey, this is what we did for the year. Did we make profit or not? Like, that's what shouldn't matter. When you're doing quarterly, there's so much that can change in a quarter that you don't realize and compare, especially when you're comparing to the previous year's quarter.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like that type of stuff. And if you're putting too much emphasis on that, you're going to stress yourself out way too much.
Absolutely. I think you hit it on the head.
Yeah. And then, as I mentioned, our next strategy is kind of a little more the tech focus of the QQQ, but it's focusing on what's called the Magnificent Seven, which are mostly the big movers and shakers you hear both in the Fortune 500 and in the QQQ tech market. With that's your Apple, your Microsoft, Tesla things. So the big 7 companies. They did grow, but again, minorly because some of those were a little shakier this month and everything. So again, the growth was there, but it wasn't even quite the full 1%. So again, did it go up? Yes. Is that fine? Absolutely. Do I think they have better growth overall? Sure thing. But we're going to test that against virtually just having a diversification of a QQQ or even more of a diversification of the VOO. And right now it's showing having that broad diversification might be the better answer than just putting it all just in those top 7. So again, it's something I think that's what we're testing and seeing what's out there. And the whole reason why we're doing this. But right now, I think still with the tried and true ETF S&P 500 index fund is showing why you may want to have it in a broader fund than that than just picking 7 random stocks and just running with that.
No, exactly. I mean, there's the reason that they're, in the top 7 is because those companies have been known to be consistent in what they put out. And like you said, there's going to be fluctuations. Yes. Like we see Apple go up every time they announce a new iPhone or something like that, and then go down when everyone realizes it's not that different, and then goes back up. So like it's going to fluctuate, and no one's going to be perfect. Not a single one of these companies are going to be perfect. They may miss their quotas. I know, like you and I being very familiar with Disney as well, knowing Disney stocks and seen it firsthand and why it goes up and down gives us a little bit better understanding. And Disney is not maybe quite the great example because they have so many hats in the basket, kind of, if you will. They have the theme parks, they have their movie studios, they have ABC, they have ESPN, Fox now. They have all of these companies that are contributing to the ups and downs now, to where it's going to be consistent, but you might see that fluctuation, and it's not meant to be disheartening because you believe in the company. Like I know you and I both have iPhones. We love Apple and the user friendliness of Apple, like that. So to me, that's something that I would still consider while investing into them, even though maybe it's not performing as well as I hoped.
Yeah. And again, like I think you hit it right there, saying that like I still believe in a long-term ability of an Apple. So because Apple didn't gain the most this month or whatever, I'm not going to just pull my money out of it because I know right around the corner the next iPhone's going to come out, or the next AirBuds, and whatever the next new thing they're going to come out with, it's going to help bump them back up. But now we're going to talk into our 2 current kind of losers, if you want to say that, for the past month. We hit them already kind of a little bit, which is crypto only. Now, granted, this one we're testing just crypto only and looking at basically investing in just Bitcoin and Ethereum. A 75-25 spread of that because Bitcoin still is the bigger one of the 2. But because of that, it took about a 10% hit, which is pretty darn significant.
I was going to say, we're talking about 3% being a good increase. A 10% drop, that's massive.
And then that took down our Mix platform, which the Mix platform is a spread in all these, whether both the ETFs, the dividends, the Magnificent Seven, and the crypto. So seeing if we were to bundle that all together. Now, I'm not saying to even amount to each one, but even just doing the 15% in the crypto was enough to pull the whole thing down for the month. So that shows you how big of a drop the crypto had.
No, exactly.
So that kind of goes into the different strategies and everything what we had, and currently our winners and losers. Again, I'm shocked by the dividends from that. I'm very pleasantly surprised because, again, that's before we even get the dividend returns. And if it's growing as well, that shows that long-term potential, which is what I like in having that dividend income replacing those bills. Because, again, if you're down the road where you're earning $1,000 a month from a dividend, you can then easily replace your car payment and everything just with that dividend income without having to change your livelihood and strategy. Or also just going with the good old tried and trusted VOO S&P 500. So I think right now we're showing that the two that I like the most are the ones that are performing the best, but that's what we're going to look into in the long term of this and everything. So let's go ahead and kind of give down how that kind of fits into, again, the bigger picture of what we want to do and where to go forward from there.
All right, let's go ahead and look into it.
So I think now we kind of have to look at what the whole big picture of this is and what you need to take away from this. And I think in essence, the crux of what we're looking at is not to panic. We're not going to panic sell any of this, even crypto that has taken a little bit of a nosedive.
Mm-hmm.
The whole point of this is to realize this is a long-term game, and we want you to set up that habit more so of paying yourself first, of monthly contributing to whatever strategy you like and whatever it is you're doing to keep getting to that eventual financial wealth and independence from that.
Well, no, exactly. And that is the key. The key is to not panic and when you're setting all of this up, because like we've talked about this entire episode, is there's going to be fluctuations. Some are going to be bigger than others. Some are going to be lower. Your gains might be a little bit lower and they might be a little higher. Like it all is just a variance. And so not panicking and not selling it immediately is a huge thing to create that overall wealth in the long term, because overall you're gonna be up. And obviously you do need to keep track of some of this too, because if a company starts to talk about filing for bankruptcy, maybe it's time to think about pulling stocks out of that company, and then changing it around. So you do to an extent have to stay on top of just the information that's out there and the information that we're able to get to be able to not panic in that. And I think it's so important though to also, since Buy Your Kids a House podcast, the whole thing is to build up generational wealth, to teach your kids the same thing.
Yeah.
I know that like your kids are starting to become an age where you're going to start talking more about that to them, if not already touching on it with them, of like, and not just like in investment ways, but in life ways too. Like that's a good way to start. You're like, hey, let's not panic about this right now. Things didn't go your way. Let's not freak out about it. Let's figure out how to fix it. And I think that's a good segue at an early age to start teaching them into like building these investments, and something when they become older and are learning about themselves, to be able to just combine all of those lessons together, and they'll have a solid foundation. And that is so cool to me. Yeah. Like if you do it right.
No, absolutely. Again, one of the first steps you want to do, for yourself on that journey, once you fix your budget and everything, is to try to, max out your Roth IRA and show your kids that.
Yeah.
Show them what's going on in the financial news in the big world, and show them that you're level-headed through it and that you're still every month putting that money in, because you in essence want to instill into them that once they turn 18 and move out on their own, that they're going to keep doing that themselves and everything. And I'm not saying to fully set it and forget it, but you want them to set it, not panic about it.
Yeah.
And so that each month they're still putting that money in, through the good times and the bad type thing, going through whatever the bubble burst, because bubble burst is going to happen. We're going to have more, recessions and possibly even depressions and everything, especially our kids over the next, 40 years and everything. Mm-hmm. There's going to be those ups and down roller coasters, but you don't want them to panic through that. And if you're teaching them that now while they're kids, and seeing mom and dad, looking at like, hey, this just took a 10% dip on crypto. Yeah. I'm still holding strong with it because I still believe in whatever that is. For whatever reasons you are, and you're still putting that money in monthly, showing that's going to teach them that, hey, I don't panic through this. We teach our kids, how to, do household things around, like how to fix change a tire on a bike, or, the electric goes out, how to, fix a breaker and everything on there, and not to panic through those. Why are we not teaching them not to panic through a financial, little bump in the road along the way? And that's almost more important, I think, a lot of times than even, how to, switch out a tire on a bike and everything. Because again, you don't want them to panic when it comes to money.
Yeah, no, and I think that is also key to like what parents do a lot, is they hide that from the kids. They hide the fact of like, maybe we'll be internally going, ah, and panicking, but like setting them up to realize you're in it for the long game. Yeah. You're not in it for the immediate like gratification in a lot of different things, but specifically with investments, it's not the day trading, it's not instant money. It is something to build up, to be able to see, hey, I don't have to panic about this. Even when things seem really, really bad, we can navigate it. We can look at the different options. You maybe just leave it or keep up with it and change it around. But there's always options to do to help alleviate that panic.
Yeah. And, go back to almost like a Ted Lassoism here and everything. You want to be a duck, calm on top of the water, but underneath, your feet are just, going crazy. I'm not saying pull back the curtain entirely to your kids, and especially if you are going through some sort of financial struggles. I'm not saying, hey, look at this, mom and dad are broke. Like
Right.
I'm not saying you want to stress them out and everything, but you want to teach them the habits. We always want to say we want a better life for our children than we got. So even if you're on the path of making those corrections yourself, take the knowledge you've done and pass on them, because if you are keeping it a secret, you're not going to set them up for success in any sort of finance, whether it's through their budget, investing, or whatever. Because if you're keeping it all a gatekeep secret, they're not going to have a clue what to do whenever they turn 18, and then they're going to make the same mistakes you made or even worse mistakes. So I'm not saying you need to show them your bank account if it's in the red, like, hey, look at this, like
I'm negative $20 right now.
Yeah, like whoopsie, here's what an overdraft fee looks like. I'm not saying to go through that because you don't want to panic them out, but go through talking about like what a budget is, how your money should go through that. Here's what a Roth IRA is. Here's why you should max it out. Here's the options that I'm doing for investing. And then even showing the news and the reports of things like, hey, this one just dropped a little bit, but I'm still sticking with it because I believe that this will bounce back or it'll grow further from that. Or even when it comes time to you do sell, go over that, have that conversation with them and why you're selling and why you're moving it on to a different fund. Go through the tools you use. Whether I know we've mentioned Robinhood, and I'm not saying they're a sponsor for the show or anything like that, but whatever investment platform you're using, teach them how to use it. Like, how do I log in? How do I, where do I, go on there? How do I deposit my money? How do I attach my bank account? Going through there, show why maybe you're not putting as much into your savings on your checking account because it's not growing as much, and you're putting more into your investment because of the growth. Have these conversations and everything so that your kids have that knowledge going out. Now, they may not listen to you at all.
Right.
They may make their own mistakes and everything, but at least you've set them up with a foundation to know more than what probably we knew when we grew up, and probably not what our own parents knew, but when they were growing up. Because not having these conversations and keeping everything a secret and cloak and dagger is not the answer to go.
No, exactly. And like you said, the transparency, not to, freak them out about your own personal state at the time, but to educate them and to be able to continue building throughout their lives as well. I mean, the old saying, our ceiling should be their floor, they should start at our pinnacle. That should be their foundation, is like our height. And that's such a beautiful thing for a parent to realize and to do. And that's really cool to see, because I see you doing it with your kids constantly. I don't have kids, so I can't currently do that, but I'm still doing things for myself. But
I feel sometimes you're my kid. I keep teaching you.
We're not that big of age difference. But no, exactly. So like just being able to have that foundation for them to even jump off of is huge. And like we've said so many times, it's never too late to start. Even if your kids are grown and out of the house and you're just learning these things, share it with them too. Like let them know even in their adult years. Be like, hey, I've been learning this. The approach might be different. It may not be like, hey, this is how it's done, and be like, oh, guess what I found out and guess what I learned, and share the information with them, I think is still important, and no matter what stage you're at in life.
Yeah, and again, we learn at all ages. You should never stop learning. So again, if you're older, even nearing retirement, and you have adult age children and everything already, absolutely still have those conversations, because it's never too late to try to help them, at least impart a little bit of information onto them, because any time that something might click and finally might realize like, oh, I should be doing that. And you can say like, hey, I'm nearing retirement. I didn't quite necessarily save up enough for retirement. I don't want this to happen to you too. You're now a young adult. I know you're not making the most of whatever job it is you're doing, but it doesn't matter. Put at least a little bit away. I'm not saying max out the Roth IRA yet if you can't afford it, but even $100 a month, figure out where you can make a big difference long term, because that time growth is one of the biggest factors of this, not what you're investing in. And again, I think that's what we're going to take away from this lesson in general is, even with our 6 strategies that we're looking at, and obviously there's tons of other strategies out there, but at the end of the day, is it really going to matter, or is it just the fact that you're investing? Is that's what's going to matter, and that time factor being the biggest aspect. And to me, that's my hypothesis of this, is that it's not going to be a winner of those 6 over the long term. Like, again, I think all 6 will eventually win in some form or fashion.
Right.
And it's just a matter of, little bumps along the way and everything. But I think at the end of the day, all 6 will eventually get us to our future goal.
Yeah.
And that's where I think I want people to take away from this is it's not so much what you're investing in, it's just the fact that you're investing, period.
Absolutely.
And that's what the goal is for this.
Yeah, no, and I don't necessarily have anything else to add to that right now, because that just kind of just sums everything up for me. Is like the goal is just to wait out the storms and to, not panic, and to teach our kids the value in what all of this could bring to them too.
Yeah. I think, again, the if you're going to take anything away from this video, yes, it's fun to see the 6 strategies. It's fun to see, who's in the black, who's in the red, who's up, who's down, and how much and everything. and that's fun entertainment. But the three main things to take of is, don't panic, keep moving forward with your investments, and please teach it to your friends, family, kids, whoever, your neighbors, your pets, preach it of like, hey, we want to get out of a working class cycle of working till we die, hitting retirement, not having it and everything. And the only way to do that currently really is through investments in that process. And pick one of the strategies, pick your own strategy, pick something different, but do something.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that leads us into the summarization of the episode.
Yeah.
So
let's go ahead and wrap this all up, and I think we'll conclude everything off, and then we'll let you get about your day, and hopefully go click in and buy some investment.
I was gonna say, or click back to our other videos.
Yeah, very true.
All right, so to wrap kind of everything up, like we kind of just reiterated as well, the takeaways from this is to not panic. You're in this for the long haul. You're learning from it, you're watching it grow or not, and you're like seeing everything come together. And then you're teaching your kids about it. You're teaching them how to not freak out about the state of the world that it could be in. And you're looking at the big picture, and that is so important. And also, please remember to like, subscribe, comment. We want to hear from you as well. This helps us build us up as well as it helps build the community. And honestly, the community is the big thing that we're really, really going for. Like we've said many times in a lot of other episodes as well, is we just want to be able to share this information that we're continually learning even ourselves throughout this entire process of how to tie it all together.
Yeah, and again, if you're watching this and this is your first episode you've seen, and you're like, well, how do I even get to investing? Because like my budget's shot or I'm in too much debt. We covered those in previous episodes.
Yeah.
So please look back at those previous episodes, gain that knowledge from that, get on track with your finances, and then you can start investing. And I know we briefly mentioned even some of the investment platforms like Robinhood and everything, but please put in there what investment platform are you using. We're definitely open to suggestions.
Yeah.
What works out better for you, why you like that platform better, what tool and everything does it provide that others don't, that maybe is your ease of use for that. So we're here as a community to learn and grow together, not just for us to dictate to you what you should be doing entirely and everything. We want to have that back and forth so that we all learn and can grow together to reach our financial goal. So again, as always, remember, we got to build wealth the boring way
so your kids can live the bold way.